The house at 43 Ashmere Lane had been abandoned for over 30 years. The shutters hung loose like broken eyelids, and the roof sagged under the weight of time and rot. Children dared each other to run up the porch and knock, but none ever stayed longer than a few seconds. They said the door actually grinned, if you looked at it long enough. When Daniel Harker inherited the house from an aunt he barely remembered, he didn't hesitate to move in. The timing was perfect. After a bitter divorce and the death of his mother, Daniel craved solitude. A quiet place to write, to drink, to forget. He packed what little he had and drove north through fog and forest, not stopping until he reached the crooked iron gates of Ashmere Lane. The house looked worse than the pictures, almost sunken into the earth like it was trying to return to the grave. Yet, something about it pulled him forward. He turned the rusted key in the heavy lock and stepped inside. The air smelled like damp wood and something else, like meat left too long in the sun. He brushed aside cobwebs and flicked the switch in the hallway. Miraculously, the light still worked. Pale yellow glow revealed cracked wallpaper, faded paintings, and dozens of old photographs. He stopped at one. A black and white image of a woman with sharp features and hollow eyes. "Aunt Celia," he murmured. The hallway narrowed toward a heavy wooden door at the end, thick dark oak with a warped carving etched across its surface. At first glance, it seemed like abstract lines. But as Daniel stared longer, the pattern began to look like teeth. He took a step closer. The grooves twisted into what looked unmistakably like a mouth. A wide, grotesque smile. He blinked and shook his head. Just a trick of light. Still, his stomach knotted. He avoided that door for the rest of the evening. Upstairs, he found a bedroom intact enough to sleep in. The bed sagged but held his weight. That night, the wind howled against the windows like a voice trying to speak. And just before sleep took him, he thought he heard a creaking sound from downstairs, like hinges opening slowly and closing. He blamed the wind. The morning brought rain. Gray light filtered through the cracked blinds, and the sound of water tapping against the windows was the only thing that kept Daniel from falling back asleep. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and sat for a moment, the air cool against his skin. The house was silent. He made coffee using the ancient percolator he found in the kitchen. It tasted like rust and mildew, but it did the job. With his mug in hand, he wandered through the house, studying the rooms, the furniture covered in white sheets like shrouds. Eventually, he found himself back in the hallway, staring at the door. In daylight, it looked less menacing. The carved grin was still there, faint and twisted, but easier to dismiss. He reached out and ran his hand along the wood. It was warm. He pulled back immediately. Shaking his head, Daniel turned and tried to focus on something productive. He spent the rest of the day cleaning the study, a cramped room filled with old books, brittle newspaper clippings, and a desk buried beneath dust and old ink bottles. Late that afternoon, he found a journal. Leather-bound, with a brass clasp. Inside were pages and pages of dense, slanted handwriting, his aunt's presumably. The entries were dated back decades, all titled the same, The Door. It whispers now. Only at night. I don't know what it says, but I can feel it, like breath on my neck. I tried to leave once. My car wouldn't start. When I came back inside, the door had moved. Just a little. Just enough. Daniel flipped through dozens of entries, each more frantic than the last. Mentions of shadows in the hallway, objects vanishing, voices whispering his aunt's name in the dark. It's smiling wider now. I swear it knows I'm afraid. I tried to cover it with a blanket. The blanket burned. He closed the journal and tossed it onto the desk, suddenly nauseous. That night, the scratching started. It was faint at first. Soft, like something clawing gently at wood. Daniel lay in bed, eyes wide in the darkness, listening. Scratch. Pause. Scratch, scratch. It was coming from the hallway. He got up, heart pounding. Grabbing the flashlight from his suitcase, he crept to the door of the bedroom and opened it. The hallway was empty. He swept the flashlight beam down the corridor, and froze. The grinning door was open just an inch. His mouth went dry. He stared, willing it to be a trick of the light. But he had locked that door. He knew he had. He approached slowly, each step an effort. The door groaned as he nudged it closed with one hand. Then, something laughed from the other side. Low, breathless, wrong. Daniel slammed the door shut and twisted the lock. Back in his room, he didn't sleep. He sat in the corner with the flashlight pointed at the door, trying to pretend it had all been a dream. The next morning, he found 4 long scratch marks on the inside of his bedroom door. Daniel stared at the scratches, their jagged edges seeming almost fresh despite the early hour. He traced a finger hesitantly over one of the marks, the wood splintering slightly beneath his touch. A chill ran through him, far colder than the spring morning should allow. He forced himself to leave the room and investigate the rest of the house, hoping to find some logical explanation. But the mansion felt heavier today, shadows pooling in corners, and even the familiar creaks and groans seemed amplified. As the day dragged on, Daniel tried to distract himself with repairs and cleaning. Yet, whenever he paused, he thought he could hear faint whispers carried on the stale air. They weren't words at first, just murmurs, half-heard fragments that teased at the edge of comprehension. Later, he returned to the study and reread the journal. One passage caught his eye. The door feeds on fear. It grows wider with every secret you hide. It listens to your breath and counts your heartbeats. Once it knows you, it never lets go. Daniel shivered. Was this just superstition or something darker? As dusk fell, the whispers began again, this time clearer, almost beckoning. Come. Play. With me. A soft, childlike voice sighed from somewhere deep within the house. His heart hammering, Daniel followed the sound, flashlight shaking in his grip. The voice led him to the hallway and, inevitably, to the grinning door. His fingers trembled as he reached out, but before he could touch the handle, the door slammed open with a violent gust of wind. The flashlight beam plunged into a blackness that seemed to swallow light itself. For a moment, Daniel considered running. But something rooted him to the spot, a curious mixture of terror and fascination. From the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes appeared, reflected in the beam like twin embers. The air thickened, the whispers swelling into a chorus of laughter and cries. Daniel took a step back, and a voice, deeper now, layered with malice, spoke clearly. Welcome home, Daniel. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as the voice echoed through the blackness beyond the grinning door. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but his feet remained glued to the cold wooden floor. Who's there? He demanded, voice shaky but defiant. The shadows shifted. Slowly, a figure emerged, tall and thin, wrapped in tattered clothes that seemed woven from darkness itself. Its face was obscured, but 2 glowing eyes burned with an unnatural light. You don't understand, it whispered. This house is alive. The door is a mouth that feeds on secrets and sorrow. Daniel swallowed hard. Why me? Why now? The figure's grin was the first thing Daniel noticed, a cruel, impossibly wide smile carved into its shadowy face, mirroring the grotesque grin on the door. Because you carry what we seek, it said. You carry the memory, the pain, the fear. Suddenly, the floor beneath Daniel creaked and groaned. The walls seemed to close in, as if the house itself was breathing, pulsing with a dark heartbeat. You will come with me, the figure intoned, advancing slowly. Beyond the door, into the shadows. Daniel stumbled back, but a force pulled him forward. His fingers grazed the doorframe, and in an instant, he was swallowed by darkness. He fell through endless blackness, weightless and disoriented, until he landed in a vast, twisted forest. Trees with faces that screamed silently, their branches like grasping claws. The air was thick with mist, and distant laughter echoed all around. Daniel tried to stand, but the ground beneath him shifted, roots writhing like serpents. From the shadows emerged children's figures, pale, hollow-eyed, their mouths stretched into eerie smiles. Come play, they chanted, voices overlapping like a haunting lullaby. Daniel's heart pounded. He realized the forest was a trap, a prison of memories and nightmares, feeding the grinning door. He had to find a way back, but first, he had to face the darkness within. The ghostly children encircled Daniel, their laughter cold and hollow. Their eyes, void of warmth or life, bore into his soul, drawing forth memories he had buried deep, moments of regret, pain, and loneliness. Why are you here? One of them whispered, her voice barely audible, like wind through dead leaves. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't know. The children's smiles grew wider, twisted beyond human. The door calls to those who carry sorrow. You must play with us. A chill swept over Daniel as he realized the truth. These were the lost souls trapped by the house, victims of its curse. Their endless play was a torment, a punishment for secrets left unspoken. Desperate, Daniel scanned the forest, searching for an escape. But the twisted trees shifted, closing paths and leading him deeper into the nightmare. He stumbled upon a weathered stone altar, etched with symbols matching those he'd seen in the journal. On it lay a small wooden box, ancient and sealed. Opening the box, Daniel found a single key, cold and heavy in his hand. A voice echoed around him, softer this time. "This is your chance. But beware, the door watches, and the house does not forgive." Clutching the key, Daniel sprinted through the forest, shadows reaching for him like grasping hands. The laughter turned to screams, and the ground shook beneath his feet. He burst through a veil of mist and found himself back before the grinning door. The children's faces pressed against the dark wood, their mouths stretching impossibly wide in a silent scream. With trembling hands, Daniel inserted the key into the lock. The door swung open, and for a moment, he saw nothing but darkness, then a flicker of light. He stepped inside, ready to confront whatever waited. Daniel stepped through the threshold and found himself in a long, narrow hallway lined with mirrors from floor to ceiling. Each mirror reflected not just his image, but twisted versions of himself, some gaunt and hollow-eyed, others smiling with malevolent grins, and one even bleeding from eyes he didn't have. The whispers returned, swirling around him like a cold wind. "Look deeper, look inside." He hesitated but then stepped closer to the nearest mirror. As he stared, the reflection began to move independently, mocking him, sneering, taunting. Suddenly, the glass rippled, and a hand reached out, pale and clawed. Daniel recoiled, heart pounding. "Face yourself," the voice commanded. "Only truth can break the mask." Each mirror showed a secret Daniel had tried to bury, moments of cruelty, failures, and shame. As he moved down the hall, the reflections taunted him with accusations and lies, demanding he confront his true self. Near the end of the hall, Daniel found a mirror that showed nothing but darkness. Hesitantly, he placed his palm on the glass. The surface rippled again, but this time, instead of fear, he felt a warmth, a faint hope. A voice whispered, "Only when you forgive yourself will the door open." Daniel closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and whispered words he hadn't said in years. "I forgive you." The mirrors shattered all at once, the shards raining down like stars. The hallway shifted and opened into a spacious room filled with soft light. In the center stood a figure, his Aunt Celia, alive and whole, her eyes filled with sadness and love. "You have come far," she said gently. The door's grin fades with every secret revealed. But the final trial awaits. Daniel's heart tightened. "What is it?" Celia smiled sadly. "You must choose. Leave with the knowledge and live, or stay and become part of the house, guarding the door forever." The choice weighed heavily on him. Daniel stood silently, the weight of the choice pressing down on him like a stone. His Aunt Celia's eyes searched his face, patient and understanding. "To leave," she explained softly, "means you carry the burden of truth, and the memory of this place. You will never be free of its shadow. But you will live." Her gaze grew solemn. "To stay is to protect others from the door's hunger. You become its guardian, trapped in this house, but keeping the darkness sealed." Daniel's thoughts raced. Could he sacrifice himself to save others? Could he live forever in a place of shadows and whispers? Or was it better to walk away and face the world, haunted but free? The house around them seemed to hold its breath. Finally, Daniel spoke. "I want to live, but I want to understand. Why does the door grin? Why does it feed on fear?" Celia's face darkened. "The door is not just a door. It is a gate, a mouth for the house's darkness. It grins because it knows the secrets we keep, the lies we tell ourselves." She stepped closer, voice barely a whisper. "The house thrives on those secrets. The only way to stop it is to be honest, with yourself and others." Daniel nodded slowly, feeling the truth settle deep inside. Celia smiled faintly. "Then go. But remember, some doors never truly close." As Daniel turned to leave, the house sighed, the grin on the door fading into a simple, worn wooden panel. He stepped back into the hallway, feeling lighter yet forever changed. Daniel walked away from the grinning door, his footsteps echoing in the quiet hallway. The house felt different now, less oppressive, as if some of the darkness had been lifted. But the memory of the shadows and whispers lingered like a cold chill in his bones. He gathered a few belongings, determined to leave Ashmere Lane behind. Yet as he moved through the rooms, he noticed subtle changes. Photographs where faces shifted when he wasn't looking, faint laughter drifting through empty hallways, and shadows that seemed to flicker just beyond the corner of his eye. Before he reached the front door, he paused. The house wasn't finished with him yet. That night, as rain lashed against the windows and thunder rolled across the sky, Daniel lay awake, hearing the faint sound of footsteps on the creaking floors below. The whispers returned, soft but insistent. Suddenly, the grinning door at the end of the hallway creaked open on its own. From the darkness beyond, a pair of glowing eyes stared out, and the familiar sinister smile stretched wider. Daniel sat up, heart racing. The door's grin was no longer carved wood but a living thing, moving, pulsing, hungry. A voice hissed, low and hungry, "You can't leave." Not yet. Daniel scrambled to his feet, but the door's edges rippled like smoke, reaching out tendrils that coiled around him. Fear surged, but so did determination. He remembered the journal, the ritual, the words of forgiveness. He closed his eyes, whispering the incantation he'd learned. Light exploded from within him, pushing back the shadows. The tendrils writhed and screamed but recoiled, retreating into the door. When he opened his eyes, the door was just a door again, closed, silent, and still. Exhausted, Daniel collapsed, knowing that while the house's hunger was quelled for now, it was never truly gone. The grinning door had been silenced, but not destroyed. Days passed, and Daniel prepared to leave Ashmere Lane for good. The air outside felt fresher, the weight inside the house lifted. Yet a nagging unease lingered in his mind, the feeling that the house's story was far from over. Before leaving, Daniel returned to the study, where the journal lay open on the desk. He flipped through the pages once more, eyes catching a final, hidden note scribbled in the margins. The door waits for the next. It feeds on sorrow, but it cannot enter those who carry no fear. His breath caught. He realized the curse wasn't just about the house or the door, it was about people. Their fears, their secrets, their regrets. That night, as he packed his bags, the phone rang. He froze, staring at the silent device. Then again, a chilling, distorted whisper, "We're coming." Daniel's blood ran cold. He understood now, the door's hunger extended beyond walls and wood. It followed the broken, the frightened, the haunted. He locked the house's doors and windows, but deep down, he knew it was futile. The grinning door had chosen him, and its whispers would never stop. Daniel sat in his car, engine running, hands gripping the wheel tightly. Outside, the rain poured relentlessly, washing over the twisted branches of the trees that lined Ashmere Lane. Behind him, the house stood silent, its windows dark, its door closed. But Daniel knew better. The grinning door was waiting. His phone buzzed with a message, a single word. "Welcome." His heart pounded as he glanced back at the house, then forward to the road ahead. He wanted to drive away, to escape the nightmare, but a voice inside whispered that the darkness had already followed. Suddenly, the headlights flickered and went out. The engine stuttered and died. Trapped. From the shadows, a figure appeared, pale and smiling, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The door's grin was in that smile. Daniel's breath caught as the figure stepped closer, the whispers rising like a storm. "You cannot run from what lives inside." The rain turned to ice, and the night closed in. Daniel's last thought was a desperate hope, that somehow, somewhere, light could still break the grin. The house remained, silent and waiting. And the door, it still grinned.